Good morning, everyone. It's episode 65 of Radiant
65.
Reflections. I'm kind of trying to pay attention to our episode numbers a little bit better. Haley knows them because she produces the podcast, which she was at Disney World or Land. I don't know, one of those last week. And that's why the podcast was delayed on YouTube, because she was enjoying a family vacation.
All right.
It's awesome.
I'd be curious, Haley, what parks did you go to? Because don't they have like 1,000 different parks?
I don't know.
I don't know. It just seemed because
you mean like Universal and Epcot and all that kind of stuff?
I don't know, because I've been to Hollywood Studios, and that's like a specific park, right? But that isn't Magic Kingdom. That's with the castle and all like the.
I think that's where they went.
Character guys and stuff. That's
Comment below, Haley.
Park. I don't know. I can't keep it all straight.
I think that they went to that one, to the Magic one, because I saw pictures of Scotty with princesses and stuff on Facebook. Yeah. So it looked it looked pretty cool. She was cute as a button. Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
Well, here we are, episode 65, coming off of a first installment of a brand new teaching series.
Yes.
But
how long is this series lasting, Josh? Do you know?
It'll probably
will it be up till Easter,
might,
or
tweak it, in some way, shape, or form. Will
Okay.
probably get us to Easter.
Cool.
This theme, anyways, if not this specific series title.
Unpack it. Unpack the theme and the series title, and then we'll talk coffee.
Okay, so we're in a series ER. We're looking at emotionally healthy, holy relationships. It's
not
really
the classic TV show.
No.
Did you watch the show?
I didn't.
Dude, my wife and we watched that show.
I don't like medical shows.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I like, I think some of the ones that Nicole and I used to watch, like NCIS.
Yes.
That kind of a thing.
Sure.
We liked White Collar.
Law and Order.
See, I never watched Law and Order.
Okay.
I liked White Collar, though.
Okay.
We did, for a little while, we did the first few seasons of Burn Notice. It's about a spy who gets burned or whatever. But it was one of those, like, it got to be nails on chalkboard. They use the name of Jesus so often as like an expletive. And it's nah, I can't do that anymore.
I'm not down for it.
So,
but this is not that ER. It's
not. So emotionally healthy, holy relationships. It's really a spin-off of Reclaiming Holiness.
Yes.
It's just it's saying, all right, let's
of a deeper dive
on one particular aspect of holiness.
Yeah.
And what does it look like for us to be relationally holy? And it's not, I like that Ryan gave, in a sense, a disclaimer, because sometimes you think, church is doing a series on relationships. It's all about marriage. No.
Right.
I mean, we're all in relationship, whether it's your neighbor, your coworker, your friend, your mom, your, whatever.
Yep.
Relationships are far broader than marriage. There will be some things that we hit on that cover marriage, but by and large, it's about how do we interact with other human beings in a manner that is healthy and holy.
Yeah, so, I'll be excited to see some more things unpacked in this series. But to start, we are drinking coffee from our own Madcap, which is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Lisa once again has put the painter's tape over the tasting notes.
Lisa, I don't know if you listen or watch, but you're hardcore. You're a pro. Thanks for keeping the playing field even.
Yep.
Right here.
This is
the Hunapoo?
Hunapoo. That's exactly what I was going to say. From Guatemala. Let's see if we can get this.
Or would it be Hunapu? I don't know. What do you think would be better? It's like the Didachi. Oop, I got to block my... What if I block my... Oh, there it is. If I block my face with my coffee cup, it works.
It's eyeball detection. Madcap is... We've drank coffee from them before. This is really, really good coffee. I've been pulling shots of espresso with this in the mornings. Very, very good. Anytime I go to Grand Rapids, I generally will buy...
You grab a bag?
At least two to four, because I'm a cheapskate. I don't want to pay for shipping. So anytime I'm in a city where that's why we did all. I probably saved $30 or $40 just by stopping at shops on the way around. But that's Madcap. I definitely, and then I'll just freeze it.
So Parlor had a Valentine's sale, on some of their duos. So I just ordered 2 bags of two different Ethiopians from Parlor.
Nice.
They had a pretty good deal.
Tasty.
I mean, the deal gets a little bit less good when you pay the shipping.
Oh man. Yeah. And that's usually, $8 to $10.
Yep.
So yeah, just depending. That's why I like to load up. And then I have a vacuum sealer, like an actual one of those ones you put in the plastic bags, and you suck all the air out, and then I freeze them. So I do that to keep everything fresh. Hunapu from Guatemala. What are you tasting, Josh?
I'm going to say blueberry.
Okay, blueberry.
Lilac. I don't know. That's just what comes to mind.
Is there anything better than when the purple and white lilac bushes bloom in the spring?
So did I ever tell you the story?
Or wisterias? No.
So years and years, this was like before I moved out of my parents' house. We had a couple around the yard. We had a couple of pussy willow trees.
Sure.
And we had one that was kind of like growing right up by the neighbor's fence. And my dad says, I need you to go out and cut down that tree, by the fence or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm out there, I'm like going to town on this.
How big around was it?
And my mom comes out. She's freaking out. Because I don't know if I don't remember, Mom or Dad, you'll have to.
Did you notch it the wrong side to fall on your house?
No. But what I did was, whether I did it instead of the correct tree or in addition to the correct tree, I also cut down one of my mom's favorite lilac bushes.
Oh no. They smell so good.
They do.
It's intoxicating when you go through the yard. Wisteria is also that same. So, okay, lilac. What else did you say?
Blueberry.
Okay.
What are you putting out there?
I'm saying grapefruit. I'm saying
there's a grapefruity feel.
Lemon zest, and we're gonna need like a more of a. No, it's all citrus to me. I'm going grapefruit.
Like on the back of the teeth.
Sides.
You've got like
sides of the tongue.
I didn't roll it.
Yeah, you got to let it roll off the sides. The sides of the tongue. That's where I taste those sort of more acidic things. I don't even know if that's real, but I do. Hunapu from Guatemala. Let's see what we got here. Here's layer number 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like double layered painter's tape over there?
Because we could see through. Oh, no. Let's hope I don't.
You're going to rip the label right off the
we'd
bag?
have to go on the internets. Okay.
Or we're just both right all the time.
Okay, so
I think we should
vanilla.
Okay.
You said lilac, orange blossom, which is a flowery sort of thing, and honeydew.
Huh.
Honeydew is like one of those, it's like a cantaloupe. It's
like a melon.
It's the trash of fruit.
You don't like honeydew melon?
Those things smell like a trash can. They smell like a kid. It's terrible. I know.
Oh, see, I like me some cantaloupe, some honeydew melon. Yeah.
No, can't do
good
it.
Stuff.
Vanilla, orange blossom, and honeydew, Hunapu. We don't know. We have no idea. But from Guatemala, it's a very good coffee. I'm enjoying it. So we weren't on those, but
yeah, we no points today. But that's all right.
No, that's all right. Episode 65.
Reclaim some points next week.
The title of the message was How to Break the Quit Cycle.
Which isn't actually like a question, so it should be how do you break the quit cycle?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, how do you? Yeah.
How do we break the quit cycle?
Yeah. What was standing out to you in the text, and then also just kind of. I know we're going to camp in one area, but
yeah. First, I'm gonna read the expanded text.
Okay.
Personally, I think we should have done this whole chunk.
Okay.
In Colossians 3. So I'm going to read verses 12, which is where we hung out yesterday, all the way through 17.
Okay, cool.
It says this: Therefore, as God's chosen ones, holy and dearly loved, put on compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving one another if anyone has a grievance against another, just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you are also to forgive. Above all, put on love, which is the perfect bond of unity. And let the peace of Christ, to which you were also called in one body, rule your hearts, and be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell richly among you in all wisdom and teaching, and admonishing one another through psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. And whatever you do, in word or in deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. I just felt like that kind of added some layers.
And that was the CSB.
That was CSB.
CSB version.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, no, I like that. And there's a theme as you go through that. One of the themes that you see there is gratitude. In that chunk of 5 verses, it comes up at least 3 times. So, which if you tap into some of the brain science stuff that we're looking at, some of these other other pieces, where leadership, other half of church, some of those like I haven't read the Joy Switch, but I started the 4 Habits for a Joy-Filled Life, which is Chris Coursey and Marcus Warner.
I'm interested to see what you find with that one.
So I mean, and one of the things that they do, one of the themes, they word it slightly different, but essentially gratitude is a pretty big component to their whole model.
Well, in the other half of church, they say gratitude is where joy starts. It's where joy starts. That's in chapter 4 of
in Rare Leadership, they use the word appreciation because it fits better in their acronyms. I will say my only beef with their stuff is like
RARE.
Well, you just got to keep track of so many different acronyms.
Yeah,
because like for rare, right, the RARE. Yeah. Like for your first one, right, remain relational. They've got a sub acronym.
Yeah,
and then for returning to joy, you have the cake acronym.
Yes,
right? It's like holy cow, I need like a flow chart.
You need a glossary
here for all of these acronyms. And then they've got a whole different one in the 4 Habits of Joy-Filled People. Okay. And I'm like, oh.
I don't even think I remembered
acronym overload.
The rare one. I highlighted. It's in the book.
So rare, it's remain relational.
Right.
Always be yourself.
Yes.
Return to joy.
Yes.
And endure hardship well.
Oh, that's good.
And they would say that if you do the first 3, then you'll do the 4th one.
Yeah, you'll be able to endure hardship well.
But no, so gratitude is a theme there.
Yeah. But Ryan really focused there in Colossians 3:12, talking about Paul's admonition to take off and put on. Take off and put on. What do you think was meant by that?
Are you talking in how Ryan utilized it or how Paul used it? Well, I mean, in the context of relationships, I think it's important to remember that the way that we are isn't necessarily the way that we should be.
Oh, that's good.
And I mean, and in such an individualistic culture, we think, oh, well, no, hey, look, this is just who I am. Well, but who you are is stupid.
My temperament.
Right? Like this is
my number.
And we can, and those are important things to recognize about ourselves.
Yes.
But we will often, unfortunately, use it as something to hide behind.
Right.
Rather than something to be made aware of. Oh, this is how this actually gets in my way.
Right.
More often there are strengths, there are benefits to your temperament, to your personality, all those things. We've talked about that, on multiple occasions on this podcast.
Yep.
But when we hide behind, well, no, this is just who I am.
Right.
We need to remember that who I am is tainted by sin.
Right.
And so that we're called to take that off. Right, this old nature, this aspect of me that's been warped and twisted and made into something that God never intended. I have to take that off, and instead, I've got to put on all these things, compassion and patience and love and all these different things. So to engage in relationships in a healthy manner, right, there has to be a recognition that I have to change.
Yeah,
right. There has to be a shift in me, not to, I just have to be who this other person wants me to be. No.
Right.
I have to be who God wants me to be.
Right.
So, sorry, you were going to say something.
No. I was just going to say, No. I was just going to say, I think that's why, like initially when he first started talking about the title of the message, he did say it takes 2 people. It takes 2 people for the capacity to stop that quit cycle. And maybe we should define that quit cycle.
Yeah, I mean, he
or
gets
what
into,
it means to quit. I think overall, because we don't want to just say, okay, this message was about divorce. This could be about breakup. This could be about just quitting on any relationship in your life, like giving up.
And I think you can extrapolate it to a variety of contexts.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he talked about how kind of your first step might be to quote unquote quit on the small stuff before you get to the big stuff, right? Go to a marriage, right? The big quit, would be divorce.
Right.
Like in the workplace, the big quit is like you quit. Like you leave this job. Like I don't work for you anymore.
Done.
I mean, within friendship, like, hey, we're not hanging out anymore.
Yep.
There could be small quits along the way.
This sort of paved the path to the big one.
Yes. I mean, within a marriage, right? This could be things like, yeah, you know what? we're not going to really date anymore. We're not going to foster any sort of romantic element to our relationship. Right. In the workplace, right? Some of these small quits are, you know what, man, when I first came in and I'm in the kind of that honeymoon phase.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I'm first one in, last one out. I'm go. Now it's like, you know what? I'm going to
coast.
I'll coast. I'll do the bare minimum. Like I'll do my job, but that's about it. And maybe I'm not even going to do that to the full ability that I have, right? Those are some of those smaller quits, right? Within a friendship, maybe you get to be like, man, I used to text them all the time. Yeah, if they text me, maybe I'll respond. And we kind of abdicate initiation, within that relationship.
One way.
Yeah, and it becomes this lopsided relationship. So there are a variety of ways that we can quit across a variety of contexts. And it's important to be kind of aware of those things.
It seems like passion. The passion part of the relationship is one of the first things to go. Like when you lose that energy towards like wanting to connect with that friend via text or wanting to have that date night with your spouse or whatever it is, that energy in the project at work, like you really want to get that thing done. I just wonder, this is why my line of work, so we've got different managers over different departments, and we will what I've told our management team is to tell them, never delay praise, ever. If you're in the middle of a project and you have this thought come into your mind about something good that someone has done on our team, put your stuff down, stop your thing, call them, text them, email them, because it's never going to be the enemy of our souls that brings encouragement or brings that passion or that spark into a relationship. And so I wonder how often, maybe even before we start losing some of that passion, maybe we're not sensitive to the prompting of the Spirit to say, you know what, you need to send that text to that friend and encourage them, or you need to order those flowers for the missus, or what, whatever it might be. I think God is faithful to give us these little promptings that will maybe stop that paving of the way towards the big quit. And we need to be listening for God's voice in those things. But he did say it takes two people to break the quit cycle. It can't just be one person.
No, although, there are things that you can do, right? Because that would be another way that we kind of abdicate responsibility. Like, hey, they don't want to change. I'm out, versus, you see in Scripture, Paul's talking to believers. He says, hey, if you have an unbelieving spouse, right, you come into faith, your spouse isn't a believer.
Right.
If they're willing to remain, you stick with it.
Yes.
So there are some things where like, hey, if it's not going to be a 50-50, I'm out of here.
No.
Nope.
Is that how God works with us?
I hope not.
No.
And it's not. I know.
No. But Ryan did say, and I thought it was very important that he identified, and even listeners, viewers, if you're divorced or even separated right now, in a marriage context, or maybe a boyfriend, girlfriend, and there's a separation right now, some space or time, there are some real and legitimate reasons that the Bible does. And Ryan said very wisely, we can't really double click on that in this message. And if you wanted to know more, you can connect with Ryan. You could connect with Pastor Brandon, Josh, or I, Pastor John, Pastor Pam, Pastor Karen. There's plenty of people on the staff that you could connect with to know more about what the scriptures say about that. One of the biggest ones in the marriage context is infidelity. Jesus identifies infidelity as a biblically legitimate reason to divorce. It isn't an imperative.
I was going to say, and that's an important distinction to make, because I think even in that place, I think the Father's heart is for restoration.
Yes, if possible.
Yeah. Right? And again, this is where that it takes two to tango kind of thing comes in.
Yeah.
Right? Because you might you might
not
have
be
no
able
say
to have the capacity.
Right? Like you want to restore, and they serve you divorce papers. I mean, it's
right.
There's a lot.
If there's just straight up unfaithfulness and So, I think another one that the whole staff would agree upon would be, if you find yourself in a relationship where you feel endangered in any way, you need to separate.
Well, separation. Yeah, and there's a spectrum there, right? Yeah. Like separation does not automatically mean divorce. There are seasons where I think the healthiest thing is for some separation, particularly in an abusive situation.
Yes.
Something where, a spouse or the kids, somebody are actually in danger.
Yep.
Or physically,
of
mentally,
course.
Emotionally, anything like that.
Yeah, and if you find yourself, listener, viewer, in one of those situations, get help. Get talking with someone about that. It's really important. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else, Josh?
Do we want to bounce back to kind of the whole zone thing just?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he camped quite a ways there, or quite a while there, and I thought it was really good. He shared 3 zones that we get into, and then also he shared 3 solutions to kind of help these things, to maybe unpack that first zone, Josh.
Yeah, so he called it the A zone, and kind of the wording that he uses, this is the period that's full of promise, right? This is your honeymoon phase.
That's what I have, full of promise.
For lack of a better way to say it, right? This is where, like, I think of like the movie Bambi, when he's Twitter-pated, right?
Yes. That's
and it's just like, woo! Like, things are great. Again, and this can happen in the context of romantic relationships. This can happen at a job, right? You get this job, you're like, oh, this is amazing. My coworkers are amazing. My boss is amazing. I love it here. Like, I'll work here for the rest of my life, right? And just everything is, going up and to the right.
Pie in the sky.
Mentally, emotionally, physically, like things are moving and grooving.
Yep.
That's kind of this phase, right? You make a new friend and you're like, oh, this is great. We have so much in common. We're doing all this stuff. We're having fun. We're, going to this or that or the other thing. And
I don't know why this is popping into my head, Josh, but it is. It's like the first time you eat a hot dog. It's like, this hot dog's really, really good. This tastes great. And then later in your life, you come to find out how hot dogs are made and what they're made of. And they still taste really pretty good, but there is a difference. You're like, okay.
So you're talking about when you moved into the B zone now.
Yeah. Well, just
dogs.
like, there's a difference. and we say this to people in the church world, like church staff world. We'll say to people, now you know how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
And that's to tell them, like, behind the scenes, there's ugly stuff that goes on with being a church staff member, with what it means to produce a service, what it means, all that kind of stuff. It's not all full of promise. It's not all honeymoon. It's not all Twitter-pated. It's not all. There's struggle and challenge and difficulty.
Which, that's an interesting way to look at this, right? Mm-hmm. Church membership.
Yeah.
Right. You've got people that come into a congregation. They're part of the assembly, and they're like, whoa, like, this is the best church ever. Yeah. Right. And then maybe you get a peek behind the curtain. Not that we're like sitting there, like, trying to, say one thing and do another.
No.
But life is messy.
Yeah.
It's messy for you. It's messy for me. It's messy for JB. Yeah. Right. And sometimes you when you start to get a peek at some of those things, or you realize, oh man, like, I can't believe, like, 2 of these pastor guys were like yelling at each other about something. Like, that doesn't seem right. That's happened. I think I've usually been the one. I was like hollering at Kinsey about something. This was a couple of years ago. I felt really bad. I had to go back and apologize. But then it's like, oh, okay, this isn't as fantastical as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know about this. And this is where you've got people that leave churches for. Some people leave churches for legitimate reasons, really good reasons.
Yeah.
Then you've got people that leave churches because it got a little uncomfortable.
We asked you to put a mask on.
Right. Little throwback 2020, baby. Right there's and you've got people that leave, and they're kind of in that B zone, which the wording that Pastor Ryan used there is, it's full of problems,
right?
Which is maybe a little bit hyperbolic, But
or
it's just
it has problems.
Right. There are some bumps in the road. Kind of that, well, hey, this isn't what I signed up for.
Right.
Kind of
you
mentality.
become more aware. You become more conscious of the actual reality of the circumstance you find yourself in. And I feel like that zone A, the full of promise, none of the problems didn't exist when you were in zone A. Right. They were all there.
You're largely
it's a perception
ignorant
thing.
of them, or out of infatuation, love, or whatever. You kind of just ignore them.
We live in a land of Amish people, right? And sometimes you'll see a horse driving down the road, and they've got this thing on their faces, their heads, and they're like these little flappers that go on the left side and the right side of their eyes, and it keeps them from looking to the left or the right, just straight ahead. It's because if they look to the left or to the right,
where you look is where you're going.
Yeah, they're going to go, And so I think sometimes in that A zone, we are very myopic. We're very just like, this is the way, this is what's happening. And then when we get to that B zone, the one full of problems, it's a big lurch. Like it's a big grind to the gears. Like you kind of start seeing some things that are a challenge. What I loved about this message, and we could do an entire other podcast about, is...
You should have brought this up sooner. We're almost halfway done, man.
Well, and we totally could, but Father Ronald Rolheiser has a book called Sacred Fire, and he has a couple other books that are specific to the stages of life and what it looks like for men, what it looks like for women, and then the different flowchart style trajectories that one can take. It's very powerful. I'm going to show you the diagram when we're done.
Yeah.
My spiritual director, Doug, shared this with me this last week, and just shared this one particular screenshot from a diagram. And it was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. That is true. But I think that is, when you get to that B zone, it really is this fork in the road, where you can go towards wanting to just quit, or doing what would a person do in the B zone, Josh, to not be lured to just give up and quit? What do you think?
I mean, you're talking about like what are some habits, practices, that kind of thing that they could utilize to
if the title of the message is How to Break the Quit Cycle, we come into zone A, full of promise, full of flowers and sunshine. We get to zone B, and we start to, whoa, wait a minute.
So I would rewind, and this is like anytime I do premarital counseling, with a couple, like it's looking at expectations. So when you're still in the A zone, let's look at your expectations for this relationship.
In this new season?
Like right now.
Okay.
Hey, what do you think this looks like moving forward?
Okay.
I mean, I love the tool that we use, Symbis, Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks at, and it asks each one in the couple to say, hey, who's putting gas in the car? Who's taking out the garbage? Who's doing? I mean, like
simple expectations.
Wow. Because oftentimes
that's cool.
Oftentimes,
formation
conflict arises because of unmet expectations.
Right, and assumptions.
Yes. So if we can identify those expectations, we can say, all right. So you're looking down the corridor of your marriage, and you think, oh well, he's gonna put gas in the car every time, and he's thinking,
growing up. So much of it.
Which is often what fuels those expectations.
Yes.
What we have a front row seat to, right, as a kid, that is often what fuels our level of expectation. Yeah. Well, hey, no, dad always did this. Right. Mom always did this. So I'm going into marriage thinking, well, as a guy, this is what I do. Yeah. This is what she does. But maybe that was not at all her experience. Yep. And she lived in a spot where it was flip-flopped.
Now you're in zone B.
And now you're in zone B.
Dr. Ted Tripp tells this story about that exact thing. And it's worth saying. And then you come right back to what you're saying. So him and his wife, Margie, they got married. And he came in and he's in the kitchen. He sees the refrigerator, and that space in between the cabinet and the refrigerator, there's that little space. Well, Margie, his wife, had packed all of the paper bags. You fold them up neatly from the grocery store and put them alongside. And it was this storage space for these paper bags from the grocery.
Maximize your space.
Yeah. Ted Tripp is like, you can't do that because the refrigerator is an electrical unit that puts off heat and it has to have so much air, circulation around it to keep it cool. And he realizes in that moment that at his house, this was what he was taught by his dad about the refrigerator. He goes over to his mother-in-law's house next to the fridge, in between that cabinet.
That's where you keep those
all
bags.
These paper bags. Margie's only doing what she grew up knowing to do. So I think that childhood formation, the examples that we see within marriage are very crucial. So you have these unmet expectations. You have these assumptions, which viewers, listeners, you know what they say about assuming. We won't repeat it, but we know it. What would a person do? So what do we do in this zone B full of problems area?
Well, again, I'm gonna go back again. Like I think you first. I mean, if you're still in zone A, look forward. What are your expectations? Really be clear about that. And this applies to anything, right? Not just marriage. Again, you get a new job.
Right.
What do you think this is going to look like?
Yep.
Right. I'm gonna actually put that. Oh man, I'm gonna work here for 40 years. I'm gonna make it I'm gonna be the CEO. By the time I'm done there, I'm gonna have the corner office. I'm gonna da 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 da.
Yes.
If we kind of project ourselves, down the corridors of time, what do we think this is going to be like?
Right.
And then ideally we pause and say, is that actually a realistic expectation? Right. If I think, and this is where, maybe I'm a jerk, right? But I sit down with couples and I tell them, right, hey, right now, all you guys have been going out for a year and a half. Guess what? A shift is coming.
Yes.
Right. I mean, I think they've done the math on this, and you get 18 to 24 months. That honeymoon phase. Yeah. That kind of wears out. That Twitter-pated phase wears out. And so, depending on where a couple is in their length of dating relationship, etc., I try to make sure I warn them. Hey, like, some of those things that you're feeling right now, thinking right now, that's going to change. Yeah. And that's not a bad thing. No. The way that I tell them, I actually say, man, I go home and my wife says she loves me. Like at this stage in our relationship, that's not because her hormones are like going bonkers. Like, oh, this guy is so cute. I just love him. I want to just eat him right up. Right. I mean, that's not it. My wife says she loves me because every day she wakes up and chooses to love me, even though I could be a jerk bag. Like that's way better than the hormone thing. Yeah. So I try to get a feel for their current level of expectation, but also paint a picture of, hey, the next stage. Yeah. Yes, there's going to be some things as you become more aware of some of their little, idiosyncrasies and things that you're like, oh, okay, that's not as cute as I used to think it was.
Paper bags by the fridge.
Despite all those things. Yeah. What comes next is better. Right. So you hopefully
the most challenging thing about that though, Josh, is that as much as you as a pastor in premarital counseling can say that. Oh yeah. And can talk about the A zone thing and the B zone thing, you can't know it until you actually experience it. You can't actually, it's kind of like, well, I was listening to a podcast here, it was probably 6 months ago or so, and I can't even remember who it was. I think it was Preston Sprinkle, and I wanted to reach through the speakers and slap him. Because he had this lady on, right? She was a psychologist, says she has particularly this woman had a parenting practice, right? Where she would counsel children and she would counsel parents.
You better not tell me she doesn't have her own kids.
She didn't have any kids. She had no children.
It's like that super nanny chick from the UK or whatever several years ago.
I don't care how doctory you are or what degrees you have. My wife and I, another thing. I won't name the counseling place, but there's a counseling place about 45 minutes from here. It's not Desert Streams. And we went for a marriage tune-up for marriage counseling. And they pair us with this, we could tell he was younger than us, but whatever. So we sit down and it's that first meeting where you're like getting to know the person, whatever. And through the conversation, we come to find out this kid isn't even married.
And is a kid.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably he was maybe 30, so he's not a kid, but we're in our early 40s and we've been married for 22 years. And we messaged the people at the clinic and we're like, y'all might want to rethink this. You assigned a counselor who I'm sure God can use, and he could tell us the scriptures, and I'm sure he's perfectly capable. That's not a good choice. So my point to saying all this is that there is an experiential reality to these zones, that you don't know that water until you're swimming in it. You can't really know. But what I'm saying is, and you've said some things, but what are some other things that we can do specifically to mitigate what's coming, those changes?
Again, maybe I'm just saying the same thing over again, so you call me out if I am. But I think some of it is normalizing the fact that it's gonna get bumpy.
Yes, good. Okay.
Right, like recognize, hey, this isn't, I'm not some freak of nature because I'm struggling in my job right now. I'm not,
and we're not in a marriage crisis because
I'm not a bad husband.
Yes,
because
good.
My spouse and I are in conflict. I'm not a bad friend.
No,
because my friend and I are, we're kind of butting heads on some stuff right now.
Right.
Normalizing that, I think is helpful because it's kind of like if I have something physically wrong, right? Like I'll do something. Oh man, I just tweaked my back wrong. For me, at least, if I can get some insight into, what's wrong, like that alleviates a lot of the pressure. If I'm like, no, hey, what's going on? I have no idea what's the origin.
You just know of this. It's bad. We got problems.
We got problems.
Yeah.
But if I recognize, it's because you were an idiot, Josh, and you bent over and you tried to pick up 150 pounds of something, and you strained a muscle.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
We're good.
Yeah.
Like that's normal, right? Yeah. That happens when you're an idiot and you do this kind of thing, right? Now, take that and put it in the context of relationships, right? Like, am I a bad husband? Am I a bad employee?
Right.
Am I a bad, boss? Am I a bad,
Did I make the right choice?
Yes. Right. And now,
did I take the right job? Did I marry the right person?
Right. And there are certain mindsets within relationship. Again, this one's particularly with marriage, right? Where we look at marriage a certain way, and the way that plays out in the face of problems, some of that depends on kind of your mindset. But
I think it comes back to the other half of church. So if we are within community, and if we are in community, I love some of the instruction I got as a very new believer and as a new married person. So I was taught early on, you and Lisa, my wife and I, you were a family before Ian came along, and Lily and Leah and Mikey. You were already a family. They are now part of your family. And so thinking in that context that, look, and to not use quit terms. Divorce is not a word my wife and I have ever spoken out loud to each other.
That was actually, so before Nicole and I got married, that was one of the pieces of advice my dad gave me. He says, don't even let that be in the lexicon.
It is not a word.
That's not something that you even
And why is that?
Bring up.
Because what we know about marriage and about the vows that we made before God and God's people, before the pastor and before the man or woman that you've gone into covenant with, they're binding. They are binding. And so believing in the rigidity of that covenant and the community that exists within that covenant will help you to say, look, yeah, this is hard. We are in this B zone, this problem zone, but quitting, it's not an option.
Right, and
there are some other options that I don't like either. But
right, because quitting is not an option. Guess we'll just grit our teeth and bear it. Well, that sounds pretty miserable too, right? And you have people that persist in just this miserable state of existence within a relationship or in a job or in a it's like, no, how about we get some tools? That's one of the things I love about counseling, right?
Yes.
And I like the wording you used, right? A marriage tune-up.
Yeah.
Right. Man, as you go through different seasons of life, there are going to be situations you don't know how to handle.
Oh, yeah.
Like you need to bring somebody in to help equip you to navigate this new challenge. Counselors, a good counselor is like that. They have the tools. They have, ideally they've got some experience in this, where they can say, "Hey,
education.
Let me
but
talk."
Listeners or viewers, I would say, and I know Josh is going to agree with me on this. It doesn't have to be a counselor or a therapist. It can be. I know for me, what I generally will turn to in things like this, older people. Because it goes back to that A zone, B zone thing. Like, I have no idea what it means to be married for 30 years or to be 60 years old. I don't know what that looks like. But I know quite a few people that have loved Jesus and loved their spouses for 30 years and are 60 years or older. And so I turn to elders in the faith, what I would call mentors in the faith. It's not always that you have to go to a therapist or a counselor. It is. No, but
I think the stigma is lessening with counselors within the church.
Yes.
But I think counselors have a valuable place.
Agreed.
But I agree also. The key, if you're, let's say you've been married for 2 years and you're like,
B-zone.
we're hitting B zone stuff right here. What do we do? Yeah, find somebody who's been married longer than you and who's in a healthy place in their marriage, right? This
somebody's marriage that you want.
This drives, that's a good way to say it, because this drives me crazy, right? Hey, somebody's struggling in their marriage, and who do they go to? All their divorced friends. Guess what kind of advice? Well, you know what? I got divorced. Worked out pretty good for me.
Sounds like you need to quit.
Right? Yeah. Let's just give up. No. I had, and this ticked me off. Maybe I've brought this up on this podcast before. I had a buddy. This was years and years ago. Him and his wife were in a B zone arena. He went to a counselor. The counselor said to my buddy, "Well, it sounds like she doesn't love you anymore. You guys should probably get a divorce." I was like, well, you paid this butthead for this advice?
Way to edit yourself there, Josh. Let's use your word, jerkbag.
That's right. It's like, no.
That's not godly counsel.
No, that's terrible.
That's not godly counsel.
That's terrible. So I like what you said. Find somebody who has a marriage that you're like, man, that would be great. Now, in one sense, right, Pastor Ryan talked about the danger of kind of the comparison game. But if I look at a couple and I'm like, you know what? Like, they seem to have this together. Yeah, they probably don't have it quite as together as we think.
Sure.
But they're 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Oh, yeah. And they still love each other. And they want to be around each other.
In our world, Josh, that's huge. I mean, and the proof is in the pudding. Jesus said in Luke 7:35, wisdom is justified by her children. So early on when Lisa and I got married and we had a baby coming right away, right after the honeymoon, Ian was on the way, we looked at couples in our church and we looked at marriages that we wanted to emulate, but we also looked at parents and we looked at their kids and we said, those are the people that we're going to go talk to. We had some good, both of us had some good and bad formation in terms of how to parent, had great things that we learned, not so great things. And we wanted to kind of put some more, as Kinsey would say, tools in our tool belt. Yeah. And so we went to these other parents. It was a couple by the name of Mike and Judy Slack. And we looked at their kids, and their kids, to this day, their kids love Jesus, and they're our kids' age, a little bit older than our kids. But we looked at that and we realized, like, we want to follow me as I follow Christ. We saw these people following Christ in their marriage. We saw these people following Christ as parents. And so we're like, I'm going to follow them. I'm going to follow them. And so if you're listening or watching and you're finding yourself in this B zone full of problems, and look, Josh and I are very obviously talking from the context of marriage because we're both married men. But this applies in any relationship. It applies to in singles. It applies at work. It does apply. Don't be afraid to reach out to someone that you respect and just start asking questions. Just start asking questions. You're going to be surprised at what you'll find. My wife and I, like I said, we've been married 23 years. We've got kids from 15 up to 22. We find ourselves in parenting situations even now where we're saying, I think we need to ask someone who's
bring somebody into this.
I think we need to ask somebody who's been down this road. Like we need some counsel. And so do that, listener or viewer. If you're in the B zone, it's okay to say, I don't know, and to ask someone that does know. Josh, obviously the B zone is the place where people, and Ryan shared with us, this is the place where people really take that fork in the road towards quitting. Okay. But Ryan kind of painted a picture, this third zone, this C zone. Unpack that for listeners and viewers.
So the kind of the wording you use here is it's full of payoffs. Yeah. Right? This is where you've established
talk about that language
within the well,
what is a payoff?
Here's the reality, right? We benefit from one another in a place of community and relationship, whether that's a friendship, right? Like ideally, right? You and I both benefit because we're friends.
Yes.
Right? Yep. In a marriage, right? You benefit from having this loving, trusting relationship that spans the years. You know, I mean, there are payoffs there. You prove faithful in your job. I mean, there are financial payoffs, I mean, from having a job.
Well, let's talk about that.
But there are also,
I think it's important that we can unpack that language, because he says zone C is the zone that's full of payoffs. What is a payoff? A payoff is something that happens after a period of time where there was previous investment. You know, for most of us, like in the pretty affluent American, the Western part of the world, you know, our homes are our greatest assets, the things that we've been paying the death note, the mortgage note on, right? But there comes this time, a lot of people, it's in their late 50s, early 60s, where that 30-year loan that they took out in their 20s, they pay off that last payment. And because they have made all these little payments, you know, at the beginning, it's all interest. It's not principal. And then you get to about a midway point and it flips, and there's more principal of each payment and then towards the end, you're not paying interest anymore. You're just paying down the debt that you owe. And that payoff represents a long-term investment. So I think it's important to consider this C zone as a place of the after the passing of time. You can't get to the C zone with a snap of your finger. You can't get to the C zone in premarital counseling. As much as, and as great as Josh is going to do in that and tell you all the ideas, you can't get to zone C until you get to zone C.
Well, and because I think some of it, and I'd be curious to pick your brain on this, and I know we're trying to be a little more disciplined here, but one of my questions is the severity of the B zone and the length of the B zone dependent on what we do in the A zone and the beginning phases of the B zone.
Yes.
Here's what I mean, right? Because like you said, I could be the best friggin' premarital counselor in the world, which I'm probably not, right? No. But you could expose them to all of these ideas, you know, try to normalize the shift that's coming down the road, give them tools to navigate it. But when you hit that B zone, do you actually utilize any of the tools, right? I mean, so like
everybody has a plan in a boxing match until they get punched in the face.
That's right.
All your plans go out the door and you get socked in the mouth.
When the crap hitteth the fan, like what are we gonna do? You know, do we actually lean into this?
Yes, that's the fork.
Yeah. So now it's like, okay, am I gonna work through this?
Yeah.
Or am I gonna try to find the escape hatch right here? Because I think, you know, and I mean, and Pastor Ryan kind of alluded to, hey, these C zone, that's like these people that have been married 40, 50 years. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, you're not problem free.
No.
When you've been married 40 or 50 years. No. Every season of life brings different challenges, right? Different problems and struggles that you have to navigate, right? You get to the point where you've been married 50 years, now you're dealing with potential, you know, health issues and like, I mean, all these different components that go with that. So it's not that you get to a place where you're problem free. My question to you, get your opinion, right? Could that C zone happen much sooner depending on the investment that you make in that particular relationship? In a marriage, hey, we're going to be really intentional. We're going to figure out how to navigate these things. If we can put some general practices in place as a couple, as a friendship, as an employee, you know, I'm going to put some things in place now.
Yes.
And that's where that payoff comes in, like you're saying.
Yes.
We're going to be intentional to invest. If I'm 10 years into my marriage, right? And I haven't done jack crap
Yeah.
to really cultivate a strong relationship.
Yeah.
I'm probably significantly delaying
Yes.
when I'm going to get to that C zone.
Or worse, what if in the A zone period, you have this A zone period, and then you immediately not only don't do the things that are the good things, but you do bad things. And now you're even farther behind.
Oh.
And it's kind of like, as a dad, I tell my kids, we've all seen this math. Ramsey puts out this math. If you put X $100 a month when you're 20, by the time you're 65, you'll own planets out in space. Like you will be a gajillionaire. You know what I mean? All these kinds of things. But I like what you're saying, and this kind of does segue us really well into some of these solution points to invest in zone A, deal with zone B, so that zone C is very, very like compounding interest, right? We know it's true, right? You put X dollars in at the beginning when you're in your early 20s, that's 60, 62, 65. You have enough to live for 20 years, hopefully. Marriage is much the same way. So what are he shared three things.
Yeah.
Let's unpack those for listeners and viewers.
First one that he brought up is move from self-serving to self-sacrificing. He references John 13, which is where Jesus washes his disciples' feet, and he says, now go and do likewise. Yeah. Right. So it's this call of Jesus on us to live service-oriented lives, right? A lot of times, and again, whether this is at work, whether this is in a romantic relationship, whether this is, whatever, you're in your classroom at school, right, and you have conflict. Oftentimes, right, if we really kind of reflect on what's driving this, and maybe this is just me, right? It's if I'm feeling the tension, I feel the weight of a problem, it is often because, when I really drill down, I didn't get what I want.
Yep.
and I'm upset about it.
And so much of that transition between A zone and B zone, when you're first and newly married, you have this idea that you are God's instrument to change and make your spouse into the person that God really wants them to be.
Which ultimately, you mean the person you want them to be.
Exactly. Exactly. And you have these expectations and assumptions on change, what you think they should be or shouldn't be. And that has to shift, because it is very much self-serving, because the person that you want them to be, maybe there's some good parts of that, but a lot of that is just self-serving. So self-sacrifice, very, very important. John 13:14. What was number 2, Josh?
Prayer is not supplemental, but instrumental.
I love that language.
So just pulling prayer in. And I think we can extrapolate this to all the relationships. I mean, he kind of camped out on, hey, as married couples, do you pray together? But again, I think prayer is a beneficial tool in any relationship, as you're in like a B zone
in everything.
Yeah. I mean, you look at, again, the call of Jesus, pray for your enemies, pray for these people, pray for these people, pray for these people. Let's say you and I have a struggle, right? We're in a place of conflict, which conflict is not automatically bad, right? I'll tell you this little side note. Yeah. If I sit down with a couple, like, oh no, it's great. You're like, yeah, we never fight. I'm like, okay, one of you is lying, right? Because it means you're probably, shoving down your preferences, because the odds of two people always agreeing on every single thing, not going to happen, right? So so conflict is not bad, but let's say you and I are in a place of conflict, and man, we're really butting heads.
Yeah,
it's not a bad thing,
right?
For me to
it's what we do with it.
Sit in a place of prayer and say, all right, Lord, first of all, man, I pray for my brother Josh.
Yeah,
I know he's a good dude. He's got a good heart, right? Like, but also, Lord, like, what's in me? Like, what am I contributing to this?
Am I seeing this clearly?
Yeah. Like, am I pouring gas on a fire that I shouldn't be? Am I trying to put out a fire that should be?
Right.
What's my own responsibility? Because then that also ties into the third thing that he brought up.
I think praying self-sacrificially as well. Rather than being self-serving in our prayers, it's a must. He was in 2 Chronicles 14:11, 16:17. I would say probably this would be my number one. advice in B Zone is prayer. Number one thing. You'll notice that if you can't pray with someone, something is very, very seriously broken. If you just cannot have a vertical connection with God with another person.
But like you said, I think the two things can be linked, right? Like the prayer and self-sacrifice. Go to Jesus' command, love your enemies, pray for those that hurt you. That's sacrificial, because I
don't want to pray for them.
I have a legitimate thing against this person,
and you might,
you might. Yeah. But Jesus is telling me to set that aside and pray blessings and goodness over this person. Like that is in a sense a self-sacrifice.
And this is where I believe liturgy is so very helpful. I feel like, and there's so much good liturgy out there. You know, you might be in a place where your significant other, listener or viewer, you can't even pray for them. Like his stuff is so broken and so disconnected. Find some liturgy. You know, I love Ruth Haley Barton's. I pray every day. I pray the same thing. Lord Jesus Christ, I lift X into your holy presence. May they experience the deep peace of Christ today. Because I know the deep peace of Christ is blessing. So I'm praying blessing over someone where there might be a little bit of friction, or they've sinned against me, or whatever it might be. So prayer is very important. What was number 3, Josh?
Number 3 is stop living in broken Eden, which essentially that's the blame game.
The blame game. Right. That's exactly what I have.
These things kind of all rolling together. It's easy in the face of B zone, right? Like problems to, well, if she would just. Or if my boss would just, if my employees would just, and we're putting all the responsibility, all the weight on the other person. That's not a Jesus model.
Nope. Josh, I was recently in a group dynamic with some people that were in conflict. Myself and another person was kind of listening ears. We were holding space for two other people who were in really, really like shouting at one another kind of conflict. And towards the end, as the Lord was present, he was present in this conversation. It was so beautiful. I sensed that I was supposed to ask every person in this circle of conflict to say, I need you now to say your part. I want you to say what your responsibility was. I want you to own what you can own. I don't want you to talk about any other person in this room, so I'm asking for I statements. And we went around that circle, and I did too. Like I was like, this is where I contributed to this conflict, and this is the change that I'm going to make. And you could just sense the room. This whole atmosphere changed. It was beautiful, Josh. This was a great message.
Yeah, if you didn't hear it, you can, wherever you're engaging with the podcast, you can catch the message on that same platform. So go ahead and do this.
And don't forget to like and share. Maybe you've got a friend or family member or someone that you're in conflict. Maybe sharing this podcast with them is that first step towards reconciliation, and we pray that that's what would happen. I know Ryan wants that for the messages that he shares. Like and subscribe. Definitely give us a review. We're getting closer and closer to those 1,000 subscribers.
983.
983. So we got 2 more from last week. We're getting close. 17 more coffee events coming up.
Yeah, March 23.
March 23.
Is it live?
We haven't, because we need to talk about the cap. I'm going to go ahead and throw it out here, just knowing how coffee. I don't think we could take more than 50 participants. Okay. That would be, and that might even be a little high. So
I did talk to Ben. I think Ben.
Oh, cool.
Ben's
down.
good.
Yeah, I did too, actually. Yeah. I messaged him on Instagram. So Ben, and we'll see if Skylar's still in town. My daughter Lily, if she's, depending on how she's doing from her surgery. We're excited for this coffee event coming up. It'll be great to just hang out with some of the listeners, viewers, and anybody else. Maybe you don't listen or watch,
but you like coffee,
and you tell them to come. That would be cool too.
Drag a friend along.
Yeah.
Get them highly caffeinated.
But definitely help us reach that subscription goal. And again, like and share this podcast. It helps us grow. Next week, Josh, you are going to be with a special guest.
Because
I'm out of town.
That. Yep. Special guest. To be determined.
I'll be out of town for work. But Josh and special guests, we'll see you next week.
That's right. We appreciate you guys.